Hi all, and welcome to our second lecture, Conducting a Problem Analysis. So, near the end of last week's talk, I discussed why it's important to tailor your messages to a specific audience. And I used this sample email showing how it explicitly contextualized the writer's sales pitch with a problem that had previously been described by the reader. And this is something you really want to try to do anytime you are pitching or proposing something in a business context. Businesses seek to maximize efficiency, which means they aren't looking for solutions to problems that don't exist or that they aren't really aware of. It's not enough to just have a cool idea. A successful idea needs to address some specific issue that your potential partner or buyer is facing. Most of the time, your potential client isn't going to simply reveal their problem. You are going to have to do some research in order to figure it out. This week, as the first step toward completing your midterm project, which will be a proposal for an existing business or organization, you are going to conduct a problem analysis on a brand or nonprofit organization of your choice. So this could be simply like a company that you find interesting. It could be your current employer, or it could even be Avila University. You don't necessarily have to have like deep insider knowledge of the company that you choose, although that can certainly help. It could just be a brand or an organization that you interact with as a customer on a regular basis. So a problem analysis seeks to understand what is causing some particular problem or challenge within an organization. And it often involves looking at key documents, analyzing data, and speaking with key stakeholders. Effective problem analysis seeks to get an objective, bird's eye view without concern for the egos of those involved. The type of analysis you will be conducting this week is known as a SWOT analysis. This is a good way to understand the current situation at an organization when you don't yet know what the weak points are. SWOT analysis seeks to evaluate a company's competitive position and develop strategic planning designed to facilitate a realistic, fact-based, data-driven look at the strengths and weaknesses of an organization, initiative, or within its industry. In the context of your midterm project, this exercise will help you identify potential problems with the organization so that you can propose a solution. The letters in SWOT stand for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, there is a thorough description of each of these concepts in the reading that I assigned for this week, so go ahead and look at that if you haven't already. And instead of going over each one of these in detail, I'm going to just walk you through an example of how to conduct a SWOT analysis on an organization that you have to research. For this analysis, I have chosen the local Kansas City grocery store chain Price Chopper, which is where I actually do most of my shopping. Looking ahead to my pretend midterm project, if I were a student, this is what I'd be doing. I think I might like to propose a partnership between Price Chopper and a local food bank. So my goal with this SWOT analysis is to understand Price Chopper's strategic position and to try to leverage that for my proposal. One quick note, a lot of times you will see SWOT analysis presented as a table, but here I'm going to be presenting it in a more narrative format, which is what I'm asking you to do in the assignment. This is just to get you to really hone the writing skills you're going to need for later assignments. Price Chopper is a local Kansas City grocery brand, and it is actually made up of 4 different company families. This is something that I found out in the course of conducting my research. So your SWOT analysis, your assignment this week, should include an overview of the organization you plan to analyze. I composed this overview based on information that I obtained from the company website, Wikipedia, and local and industry media who had profiled the company. With strengths, you want to look at what gives this organization advantages over its competitors. In this case, I'm analyzing a local brand that competes with national corporations. As a result of my research, I actually learned that this brand's market position had become weaker over the last 2 decades. So I focused instead on its reputation in the community and its local knowledge as strengths. You may notice that in my SWOT analysis, the weaknesses section is longer than the strengths, and this is just kind of where my research took me. I learned that it is in fact really difficult for local grocery store chains to compete with the likes of Walmart. So in addition to my research, I also relied on my own experience as a shopper. I find Price Chopper's loyalty card system to be pretty frustrating, so I went ahead and included that in the weaknesses section. You could include it in any section of this analysis if you would like to. It is fine to rely on your personal experience as long as that is backed up by some more objective sources. And I also tried to kind of think about the problems this company might be facing from the perspective of like a different consumer, somebody who's not me. What are some reasons why another person might not find this store compelling or might find this store compelling? Why might they want to shop here or why might they not want to shop here? While researching Price Chopper, I realized that despite its partnerships with major sports teams, one possibly unexploited opportunity is to develop positive PR by engaging in the community charitably. So on their website, I learned that this company does undertake some charitable efforts, but it's really hard to find information about them. So some kind of charitable partnership that is visible to shoppers and maybe even involves them a little bit could have some real potential here. Again, I just found tons of information highlighting the real vulnerability of local grocery stores, so the threat section is bigger than opportunities and has more citations. When doing this kind of research, you just have to be honest about what you find. Your SWOT analysis should end with a brief conclusion, just a couple of sentences that summarize your findings, and maybe point toward the solution you plan to put forward in your proposal, if you figured that out at this point. And here finally are my references. You do need to provide a list of references in APA format. And here's a kind of a couple of things to note about this list. First of all, I did this sample SWOT analysis based entirely on my own experience and on publicly available sources. So primarily like industry media is where I looked. So for this class, it isn't necessary to have insider knowledge. That can absolutely help, but it isn't a requirement. Secondly, you're required to cite 2 external sources in your assignment, but I really found that I needed 4. So don't just limit yourself to minimum requirements. There is no maximum on the number of sources that you can reference in this assignment. Finally, the ideal SWOT analysis ought to be conducted dispassionately. You want to set aside biases and wishful thinking and try to honestly identify potential problems. Performing this analysis, like I said, I discovered that my favorite grocery store is actually in a weaker position than I originally assumed, and this may actually complicate the proposal that I want to make. So you may walk in with some idea of what it is that you want to do in your midterm project and find that actually the analysis that you're doing doesn't necessarily support what you had planned to propose. So don't be afraid to kind of change course, to shift your plans a little bit if the reality of the situation actually requires that. Thank you for paying attention to today's lecture. I wish you the best of luck with this week's assignment. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have questions, and I am also happy to look at drafts before you submit them. Just feel free to come and ask. Thank you again.